So, given your interest in the branding and the redesign of my channel recently, I decided to put this video together. It's not going to be necessarily formatted in any way. I do plan on covering certain things. So, for example, the first half of this video, I was just thinking of showing you the design process behind the new branding and everything else. And then the other half of this video will probably be more on how I just put all that into After Effects, how I animate things, and how I integrate them into my editing workflow. This is probably going to be a semi-long video. I maybe encourage you to change the playback speeds on YouTube. Maybe set it to 1.5 or at least 1.25. But yeah, let's just get started. This is where it all begins. I usually try to start designing things in Illustrator, and let me go back down here. I mean, obviously, you've already seen how the graphics look like, but I'll get to what I'm not showing you right now in just a second. This was my old logo, and you know, I was never quite huge on the toaster icon for some reason. I tried to redesign it a few years after I released my channel, after I started doing videos on YouTube, actually. And you know, for this redesign, I figured, hey, let's try to do a 100% typographic logo. This was the old font, which is Mol or Molia or something like that. I don't know how you pronounce this one. I think it's part of the Google Fonts library. It's okay. It's not amazing, but it's okay. So since I knew I wanted 100% typographic logo, I decided to sort of play around with similar fonts. I still wanted something that looked more like script, like handwritten. And these are some options that I tried. In some cases, for example, this one was a really good candidate. I ended up not choosing it, and I'll tell you why in just a second. But I would even try things like, hey, this S looks a little bit weird. Maybe if we flip it around, it would look better. So, you know, things like that. I would just create a copy of the logo and try it over and over and over again. The reason why I didn't choose this one is because this right here would be the icon. Because obviously, if I was going to get rid of the toaster, I still need an icon. And I figured that STR would sort of represent my name. And I wanted the period there too, to use it as a transition method, and we're gonna go over that in just a second, though you've probably already seen it if you watch any of my videos. I decided to settle on this logo right here, which the STR, the smaller version of the STR, actually looks pretty well. It's even recognizable at a zoom level, you know, at a higher away or farther away some level, I guess is what I'm trying to say. It's a little bit early in the morning. Sorry if I don't make a whole lot of sense, and I'm pretty much improvising this 100%. I don't have a script or anything, not even bullet points for this one. But as you can see here, and we're going to come back to the thumbnails, this icon looks pretty readable even from afar. So that's sort of what I was aiming for. Now, before I go into the actual design of everything I did here, let me first tell you where I usually get some of my ideas. So one website that I tend to use as a reference more often than not is Dribbble. It's you can create a free account if you want to, and if you want to showcase your work, it's pretty straightforward. In this case, I'm just searching for halftone. Or I guess I'm browsing tags related to halftones. Halftones, by the way, in case you didn't know, is this dotted effect, which I'm clearly using all over the place as a texture sort of background. And where is Dribbble? Was it this one? Yeah, this is it. So, you know, a lot of people just share their work here, and usually just browsing this sort of sparks ideas in my mind, or straight at steal ideas from other people, of course, because that's what you're supposed to do. I'm not a huge fan of stealing people's ideas straight up, but I do like using other people's ideas as a base and then build on top of that. I think that's a good compromise. Another site that I use is Behance. This one not so much because it's kind of all over the place. It's pretty messy the way it's organized. This is an Adobe powered website. I don't think it used to be like that forever. I think it used to be a different company, but then Adobe acquired, if I'm not mistaken. In any case, again, same thing. You get a lot of people posting their work, and let's see, let's click on something that could potentially, like this one, for example. As you can see, the aesthetic or the graphics that you get out of Behance are usually like poster size. They're not tiny snippets like Dribbble. Dribbble, it started more like a web design sort of showcase where people were just highlighting UIs. In fact, if I go into, let's go into popular shots. So this is the homepage as of today. And as you can see, there's a lot of like thumbnails for different websites with slide animations and things like that. So yeah, you can get pretty much all kinds of inspiration from here as well, even logo designs. Though for logos, I tend to go to Logo Pond first. And Logo Pond, I mean, you can just search for whatever here. Let's see if they have any halftones. They probably do have some halftones. Yeah, you can see some halftone treatments in here. These are my go-to places. I do have quite a few design books all around me right now. Some of the books that I use or that I've been browsing lately are the Los Logos collection primarily. That's a nice source of inspiration as well. But going back to this design, so usually in terms of typography, let me give you some tips there because you might find them useful. Some of these fonts, the ones that are actually like really well made, cost a lot of money, and which makes sense. And it's and more often than not, they're worth it. But thing is, there's a lot of sites that actually most sites won't allow you to actually try the fonts before you actually buy them. I really don't want to spend $500 on a font that I don't even know it's going to work in my designs. So I have a couple tips that I can give you. One tip is to literally go to, well, first of all, Adobe, if you have a Creative Cloud subscription, where is my logo, my thumbnail? So for example, I'm using Nudista, and Nudista is part of the Typekit library. So I just get all the font families and I can just use them in all of my Adobe projects. For fonts that are not part of the Typekit library or the Google Fonts library, which is a free library, which pretty decent fonts, though not amazing. Here, let me go show you a couple of alternatives. So Da Font is a place where you can get free fonts. Some of them are actually pretty good. Most of them are not great, I would say. You'll have to spend quite a bit of time in order to find like decent fonts. Google Fonts has a semi-curated list, so I would say a big majority of the fonts are pretty decent, but there's a lot of them that are just garbage. So, not everything that's here it's worth using. A cool site that I've been using a lot lately is Typewolf. Typewolf is some sort of like newsletter kind of website. It's curated by this guy that's at the end, Jeremiah Schoaf. And he just, he has a paid newsletter, and he links to all kinds of fonts that he sees, and he like tracks trends and usage and whatnot. And the cool thing is that he also gives you, a brief description on when this particular font was designed, which foundry made it, where you can download it, where you can buy it, which similar fonts you could use if you can't, for whatever reason, use this one, or if you're interested in, or if you like this design but you're not quite settled on this particular font, you could just find alternatives. And this is another really cool thing, suggested font pairing. So for example, Lydian in this case apparently pairs well, according to him, with Kepler, which I think I would agree with that. I think that looks pretty interesting. Let's say you want to use Nudista and you don't necessarily have a Creative Cloud account. One thing you can do is actually go to GitHub, which is a code repository. And a lot of people just publish their code to their website on public repos, so you can browse them. And sometimes, actually, you'll be shocked how many times people do this. And this, by the way, is something I learned about a year and a half ago, and it's an amazing tip. But don't tell anyone because they're going to start cracking down on it. But first of all, you're going to need an account. It's free. You can sign up for free. They have paid tiers. In fact, now GitHub is part of Microsoft, which But let's say you want Nudista. So you just search for Nudista here, and you do a TTF, a space TTF. Now, if you go to code, you're going to see a lot of people using Nudista in their code, primarily on their CSS files. This is all like web development. So you don't really have to know much about web development. All you have to do is just search for the font that you're looking for. And you can see here that this guy is linking, it's including Nudista as his web font inside of his website. So you can just simply go to his, to the repo here, just browse the folders, and there you go. Nudista is here. And you can just click on this thing and straight up download it to your desktop. I'm not going to do it because I already have it, but this way you can try the fonts on your computer. And once you're settled, you're like, yeah, this is the font that I want to use. Then you go and license it. Don't just use it for free. That's not how it works. In fact, you can get into a lot of trouble if you do that. So this is a great way to test things locally. I highly encourage you to check this out. Not all fonts, unfortunately, are in GitHub. People are starting to realize that they maybe shouldn't commit some of these copyrighted elements into their repos, especially into their public repos. But hey, that's one thing that you can try. In terms of font usage, I tend to keep it around 2 fonts. So one main font for just all the text. And I try to have or use fonts that have a huge variety in terms of family. I'm not particularly fond on the italicized version of Nudista, but I've been using the medium, semi-bold, bold, light, and thin versions, which allow you to get different hierarchies of text, different emphasis. So for example, this one, this obviously was a thumbnail test, one of the early things I've done, but you could do things like, if I can select this, there we go. You can turn this into light, for example. So now Stockholm is a bit more emphasized than PDXCon 2018. In fact, I might be able to show you how that looks in my channel. Yeah, here you go. I should have done the same treatment on E3 2018. I'm still like playing around with this thumbnails. I went back and changed a few, even though these videos still didn't have the new graphics. But that's sort of what I do as soon as I just rebrand my channel. Just go back and update a few thumbnails and see how things look. And that's part of the process here too. I try to like come up with scenarios where I've already had videos on and see how they look with a new aesthetic. You'll also probably notice that I'm color coding all of my thumbnails. I've been doing that forever. In fact, if we go back to my early videos, can I actually do this? Sort by oldest. Yeah, there you go. So this was my first series. Then I started a second series and I changed the shade of orange. And as I started branching out into more different projects, you can see how everything is color coded. The cool thing about this is that, let's actually go back to our current videos. Not necessarily everyone that watches your channel will follow every single series. So I like color coding because at a glance, you immediately can tell whether you're looking at, well, I mean, in this case, FBS has a different unique thumbnail. But if we scroll down, for example, you can see that GeoGuessr, Sinu, and Miracle Mile, they all have the exact same design, but they have different shades of color. I guess Miracle Mile has the stars, but that doesn't really matter. The vlogs used to also have that design. Color coding makes it obvious which series you're doing, and I think that helps the viewers navigate your channel. If I had unique thumbnails for everything, it would be a bit harder. And also, to be honest, it's way easier to maintain because once you design the thumbnail, here's the actual PSD, by the way. It's kind of messy. I'm still like sorting it out because, you know, I'm creating things all the time. But it's so much easier because I already have my layers and everything set up. So like, for example, here, World Challenge for these thumbnails, I can do up to 1 or 2 lines of text or even 3 lines of text. And the text box is done in such a way that with the help of guides and everything else, I don't even have to like resize or do anything. Text pretty much wraps automatically. And then I have this subtitle, which actually tells you which game I'm playing or what type of series I'm doing. You know, I decided to sort of put it this way so that I have the option of having multiple lines of text and different hierarchies of text. And in this case, for example, as I had it before, I have the World Challenge for GeoGuessr, and that's it. Now, another thing that's important in terms of thumbnails is the fact that you want some contrast on your thumbnail. So in this case, for example, if you zoom out, World Challenge GeoGuessr is still pretty readable. And this is, by the way, something that you should do. Zoom out and see how things look like, because obviously on YouTube, things look really tiny. So you want to make sure that the text is actually readable. Sometimes if let's say I have an image that's like this, like you can't really read the text. So what I usually do is I add a little bit of shadow to it, but very subtly. Like don't do this. This is like awful. In fact, don't do this either. Like this is terrible. Just make it really subtle, enough that you don't really notice that there's a shadow. Sometimes it helps to add some like layers like this. In this case, I have this color burn. Let me actually show you how that looks. If I bring the opacity all the way up. Well, actually it's doing color burn, so you're not gonna be able to see it, but this is what it looks like. It's a blob of black that's just faded out. And this helps you a lot to like darken an area of an image, which still looks pretty natural and normal, but it basically gives more contrast, to the title. Man, I'm like not English properly today, but it's okay. It's okay. Hopefully this makes sense. By the way, you can let me know in the comments if you have any extra questions. In fact, if there's a lot of questions, I might even do a live stream where I can actually answer questions live. But hopefully this will at least give you an idea on how I go about doing all these things. So going back to the Illustrator file, I tend to like outline every single piece that I want to design. So for example, right here on this corner, I knew that I wanted some offline, or the stream countdown for when I stream, because my stream graphics haven't been updated at this point in a long while, actually pretty much since I've first did them. At some point, I guess I updated the toaster logo, but it was still like an old ass loop that didn't say anything. And I noticed that there's a lot of people confused every time I stream, like, oh, when does this begin? Like they didn't know, even when I just stream, because I usually have like a 5-minute gap so that get things warmed up, and also like test things to make sure that everything is working fine before I go live. I decided to include this countdown, which is basically a pre-recorded video, by the way. And this is me just playing with how this new design would look like in those scenarios. In fact, let me show you. If I go to twitch.tv/StrixToaster, this is what you see when I'm offline. This is the final version, at least. Not really the final version, because I'm sure I'm gonna change it in the future. But if we mute this, there we go. Let me actually skip it here. So this is the countdown as it looks after I animated and everything else. This stays for 5 minutes, and then right after it's gone, let me see if I can just skip it to the right time. There we go, 6 seconds. So this is what happens. And then the logo reveals. It says everything is live. I guess you can kind of see the chat going on the side here. And then I just jump into the game. In fact, I also have, let me pause this. I also have a pause mode whenever I need to like take a break, go to the bathroom or something, which overlays on the text. I can do another video on that if you want me to go deeper into how I do my stream graphics, because I'm using Streamlabs OBS now, and I created a whole bunch of custom graphics for it. So yeah. Okay, so another thing that I do in terms of design is I knew I wanted to have lower thirds, and this is sort of what I started playing with. They're a little bit more complex than what the current version looks like, which is similar to this one. Let me see if I can show you. So yeah, this is the current version of the lower third. Some have this little snippet that sort of pops out. And the idea here is that I wanted this to sort of change dynamically based on the length of the text. And I'll cover that in just a second once we jump into After Effects. But this is sort of the final output here. This is what I wanted to do. I ended up not making two different font weights. It's just one straight up font weight now. Actually, I don't know if you can see it. Might be a little bit too small, but yeah, here it is. given the limitations of how After Effects and Premiere talk to each other, I couldn't have formatted text, so I decided to just keep it all bold. But it still works. I'm not upset about that. I don't know. I could theoretically make this work if I really wanted to, but that was a lot of work that wasn't really necessary. This is also a huge thing I wanted to do, just redesign the outro, because right now, or at least until I did the redesign of this thing, it looked kind of like an afterthought putting the Patreon's box over there. So I decided to like design it from scratch and added some graphics that cycle through. You've probably already seen that in my videos. And I was thinking of adding this too, but I haven't gotten to this yet. This black box is where the recommended videos, the end cards from YouTube will appear. And I'm using like thumbnails or screenshots from the various games that I play, especially the ones that are like really heavy in terms of detail, because I wanted to make sure that everything was readable. And because if I use like this is like the best case scenario where you have a pretty clean, composed image, and I needed this lower third to actually be some sort of contrast when, in this case, for example, you have a lot of stuff going on around it, and this could be a little bit lost. In this case, it could be, but again, don't forget that this is actually moving and animating, and this is standing still, so even that will give it some contrast. I don't know if I'm making any sense here, but hopefully I do. This random image here, I found it on Behance. I like the color scheme, and I just created these 4 blocks. These pretty much compose every single graphic that you see here. That's sort of where the idea came out. This is another version of the Patreon outro thing that I was just playing around, just a little bit simpler. And this is, not every single series on my channel has its own dedicated intro graphics. So I needed a generic card that showed you what you're looking at. This is Game Discovery. Game Discovery, obviously, if I do unique games per episode, I didn't necessarily want to create like a brand new intro for that. So I just decided on a pretty simple typographical intro. In fact, GeoGuessr has one of those as well. Let me see if I can bring this to the screen right now. Thank you. I didn't need the audio. That might have been. Let me rewind that. So this is the generic intro now. And as you can see, it says World Challenge GeoGuessr. The colors change dynamically. I can change that in Premiere. And this is how the lower third looks like on actual video. There's some issues on particularly this one. So the animation is a little bit weird. I think it's reverse from what it's supposed to be. But yeah, this gives you an idea on how everything sort of comes alive on the videos themselves. And actually, that might be a good segue, unless I'm forgetting anything. I don't think I am. So this is actually how I edited that, but we're going to come to that in just a second. Here's the good stuff. So all of the graphics that you saw are pretty much compositions here on After Effects. And there's lower thirds for Patreon, for Twitch, for Twitter, for YouTube, etc., and whatever ones that come up in the future. And I'm using the Essential Graphics, I don't know what you call it, library? No, it's not really a library. Well, it is kind of a library, but basically what you do is you export these compositions, and I'm going to assume that you know a little bit of how After Effects works. And this was actually suggested by Approach Medium, which I'm sure actually is watching this video as well. So thank you, man. By the way, you should check out his channel. If you like my City Skyline series, you're definitely going to enjoy his Trains with a Z at the end series. They're very, very similar in nature. Totally different game, but I think you're going to really get a kick out of that. I want to include a link to his channel in the description, by the way. But yeah, he pointed out that I should check out on Essential Graphics. And I'm going to include a link in the description if you want a tutorial on how this works, because I'm not going to do a tutorial. The thing here is that, let me zoom in here. So for example, we have this lower third here. This is the composition for this. I mean, these are all the keyframes that basically reveal the animation. Let's see if I can actually get this to work. Wait, is this the actual animation? Why is this not being animated? Do I have... Yeah, there we go. All right. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so this is the reveal in. I mean, obviously there's so much going on. It's pretty laggy. I know that, and it's all pixelated. But you get the idea. So this is how it comes in and how it goes out. And I'm using a lot of expressions so that the length of the text actually pushes this block, which has this halftone mask that it stretches away and back in. So for example, if you're enjoying GeoGuessr, yes, I am, because I know how to type. Now this box stretches. Actually, can I unselect that? There we go. And if I do that, you can see how this also stretches. Yeah, the link I'm going to include in the description is a tutorial on how to do a more simplified version of this. This took me a good 3 days of like figuring out how to get the expressions working and all that. There's actually not that many expressions. It's pretty straightforward. Most of it is just keyframes, but you're just basically tethering the width of the box to the length of the text. That's what the expression actually does. The halftone effect is a plugin, in case you were wondering. It's a pretty heavy plugin, so I had to actually pre-render the animations. If I double click here, you can actually see. Maybe, yeah, there we go. So you can see how this like animates. This is a plain a video. And once you have all of that, you just export it into Essential Graphics. These are all the things that are already exported, and these are the rest of the compositions that I haven't, because I mean, most of these compositions are the ones I use to put together those graphics. So once you export this, then you go into Premiere. And I don't know why this is red suddenly. I think it's just trying to read off of my... Oh, I know exactly what's happening. I have a NAS connected to the network, and it's trying to read this piece of footage from the NAS. And I just a second ago, I disconnected my entire network because I replaced the switch. So I guess it's trying to catch up with that. In any case, this is how the graphics look like. In fact, I can maybe switch to 100% zoom level and really show you what this looks like in here. So if I click on the lower third, you can see that I have the same fields that I had back in After Effects. So I can add something like this if I really wanted to. It's pretty obvious, but I wouldn't necessarily do that. But you see the box stretches again, and it now is just this tiny layer inside of Premiere. The same with the intro, for example. So I have the GeoGuessr intro here. Let me go back to zoom level fit. And I have 3 lines of text, just like the thumbnail. So I can add 2 and line 1, and it will work exactly the same way, which is amazing, actually, because all this work I would have to like pre-do it before in Premiere as like their own thing, and it was just a pain in the ass. I can also change GeoGuessr, as you can see here, and I can do things like changing the color. So I can put this in pink, and I can change my logo to whatever, green, and that's a beautiful combination, of course. I'm actually going to undo this because I will forget and save this thing, and I really don't want to. It's not too hard to bring it back anyways, but it's just annoying. Let's see what else. I used to have one big project, one Premiere project for all of my projects. Now I'm doing this thing where I have just a GeoGuessr project, and it says 2.0 because it's the 2.0 graphics. That's what it means. I can actually show you. By the way, this video hasn't come out yet. It says media offline because I already deleted this to free up the space to actually record this very video, if that makes any sense. But as you can see here, here's a lower third, which I can go in and even change the color of the background to, I don't know, whatever, green again. And it changes screen, or even this subtitle. Let's make it yellow. And then it goes into yellow. Same if I want to change the text here as well. I have a Patreon one here. And I have just the YouTube generic one. Let's see, what else do I have here? I think here I have, yeah, this one that's just has my logo, and I can basically theme it with the colors that I chose for any particular series. And finally, here we have the outro graphics that I was showing you before. These are the final version of those. I can actually show you that on screen. Let me bring this into here. should pop out like here. Just a second. So this will fade in or wipe into the, I've been doing some video video content on GeoGuessr lately. So you can see the full animation on the screen right now. And in just a second, I think there's one extra clip. Let's see. After this one, you're going to see the logo reveal, which I can also change the color of. There's still some banding and some issues there that I need to fix. I haven't had time to do that. But the dot also sort of drives your attention, as you can see here. Look at the dot, and now it just like swings back in. And I'm using another plugin that I'll show you in just a second to get like amazing, super smooth animations and also create some expressions for you that makes things look really bouncy and nice. And then obviously the scroll list of Patreons, which by the way, it's just it's another. What would you call this? I guess it's another sequence in Premiere where I go into Patreon, copy all the names, paste them here, and they just scroll automatically. And then I just, I guess, position everything in here where it should be. There you go. It's just everything animates nicely. I added some feathering on the top, so it looks like things are fading out, because otherwise it will be all chopped. Quickly, before I forget, the plugin that I was mentioning before that allows you to do like smooth animations is called the Motion 2. It's right here, and it allows you to do things like this. You can see how like organic this animation looks. If you had to do this manually, it would take quite a bit of time, but if you go into here, for example, you can see the smooth animations. It's using expressions for the scaling. That's why it looks kind of like bouncing, and it has like friction that you can actually control with these sliders. I don't want to get into a lot of the detail on how this works, because it will be a bit too hard. But they have I mean, this is their official website. It's $40. And by the way, this is what I use the Patreon money for, in case you were wondering, things like this. There's all kinds of animations that you can do and just improve your After Effects workflow quite dramatically. I think they have like a 1 hour long tutorial. I think it's probably this one. Yeah, here it is, like 42 minutes. This one will go through all the features. So check this out. I think it's, mtmograph.com/motion. It's what you want to look at. For the most part, that's pretty much what I've been doing in terms of rebranding. Let's see if I'm forgetting anything else. I don't think I am. Yeah, that's a pretty high-level view of how I make my videos and how I did the graphics and everything else. So for example, here, forgot to mention this, I also wanted Strictoster DOS to be rebranded, which at the time of the recording of this video, and you're watching this video also on Strictoster DOS, by the way, I haven't rebranded the channel yet, because I just didn't have time. I'm slowly updating all of my social media accounts. I think Facebook still has all the old graphics. Twitter has the old header graphics. That takes a huge amount of time. I just recently, only a few days ago, updated my YouTube header, and I'm not even sure I'm still 100% liking it. But eventually I will update everything. But yeah, that hopefully gave you an idea. Again, if you have any specific questions, or if you need tutorials or anything like that, if you're having trouble, let me know down in the comment section. I'm going to try to monitor the comments for this video for a couple of weeks. After a while, I probably won't be able to just check the comments so regularly. If that's the case, you can email me at hello@strictoster.com. Actually, you can just go to strictoster.com. That's not what I wanted. This is what I wanted. And you can just check this at the bottom. Oh, logo. You see, this is what I meant. I haven't updated anything. But yeah, my email is down there, and also in the About section of my main channel. I guess you could just click that and it will show it to you. What else? Yeah, that's pretty much it. If you enjoy my content and what I do, also highly encourage you to come to my Patreon page. Hopefully before I update the header again on this one, and the logo on the thumbnail on this one as well. And your help actually contributes a lot on the quality and the production level of my videos, so just keep that in mind. Yeah, but I think that pretty much does it for this weird video, I must say, because I don't even know how this is going to come out. But yeah, hopefully you learned a thing or two. Again, ask me questions if you have any. If not, bug me on Twitter too. That's an option. I guess that's what I was trying to say before. Hopefully I won't get into any more tangents in the future. But yeah, thanks for watching. And yeah, best of lucks with everything that you hopefully learned in this one. All right.